Ato mātai atua matua I te matapu o tapu tia tonuhia o tō rungahu. Tō hoi ho anō katai ake ai. Ia ko tāu anō kia mea atu ai. Ia te whenua tau. Ia tō te matapu o. Mea ia mātai ki te aone. Ai o a te iao harei. A ko murua ke ia mātai. O mātai I o. A me mātai huki ia mātai. Mātai e I o wahia. A ka hore huki mātai kia kau o, kia whakawaia. E rangi whakaura ia mātai. Ia te kinoma. Anō houna ia huki te ho anu. Me te mana tapu. Me ko te taia. Ke tonu atu. Mene. Ka piti hono ka tātai hono ko rātau rā tērā. Rātau ngā mate o te wiki, ngā mate o te marama, ngā mate o tērā marama. Au tērā tau kia haere ake atu. Haere hō atu. Haere whakauti atu ki tua o te ārai o te mate. Haere ki te matapu o ki runga I te rangi. Ki te wāhi whakatauhira tia I kia koutou. I wā wāhi tia tuai kia koutou. E tō tātou mātou atua matua nui te rangi. Ia I e hōuia haere whakauti atu. Ka piti hono ka tātai hono. Ko tātou mā tonu anō tēnei tātou mātou kuau. Te kā anuhi ora kia tātou mātou kuau. Kai te mihi atu, tēnā ra tātou, mauri ora. Kahuri. Kia ora mai rā, ngā mihi ake atu, e tātou mā, mihi ake atu. Ngā mihi tonu o te wā, I roto te wā tonu nei. Just a quick update on the situation for us. As you well know, it's been a pretty bad situation, and I did say last that I spoke before you all, I did say it was going to get worse, and yes it has, and but things have slowed up and are getting a lot better now. So we're starting to cut through all of the bad apples. All of the bad apples are starting to be thrown out. And let me just put it that way. And for want of, because most of you, and a lot of questions have been asked, how's this been going, how's that been going? Well, just so that you have an idea of numbers of how worse it got, we ended up with, how many was that? 3 more going to prison, and actually 12 more being shot. Okay, so, and that's from our security. I don't think police took any, no. Police didn't take any, they just locked people up and kept an eye on things along with our top level security. We've got some of the top level security in the country, and still to this day, the lives of myself, the Taiopuru Ariki Mataura, Tahumakakanuimatua o Tutura Hapu iwi, our lives and the life of the Oure, we have been, the Queen and I, threatened, our lives threatened, mainly because of our strength in the space. Primarily because of the strength in the space that we bring, and the power of the claim that we have, the masses of evidence. We have evidence over and above everybody else. We have evidence that knocks out all of the evidence, if they have any, of anybody else. And this is what the problem is, in that the Crown /Crown cannot substantiate its way forward, its cause, have been none but yeah, the harbinger of distraught lives, chaos, threats, rapes, yeah, you name it. And as you might have seen, situations taken to the point of where gunshots needed to be fired. So 12 more got shot down in this space of time since my last kōrero. So it did get worse. But of late, in fact, of the last 2 to 3 weeks, it's been starting to roll along a bit better. Things are starting to simmer down. We have 2 more suspects in there who have been causing all of the trouble, the hassle, that have been standing on the Crown's side, though the Crown has been incorrect in its judgment. The Crown still cannot supply us with any evidence to prove any such case of supremacy of Kahungunu Rangitane. And the Tūhoe, well, they're the biggest dictators in the motu anyway, apart from the Crown, and are always trying to run things their way. They're always trying to run things their way. And this is the silly part about how the Tūhoe do things. And they try and call their way Tuturu. We are the major, we are the primary group in the country that questions that. And we know for a fact, in fact, that most of what they call Tuturu actually isn't. It actually isn't. The fact that they are always in Tuturu war mode doesn't make it Tuturu. See? So, and the fact that they like to make calls on the fly, and though those calls being bad calls, they continue to roll along with that. In fact, they changed the rules, the whole game. They moved the goalposts, all those sorts of things. That's not Tuturu. We don't do that, Tuturu. We don't do that. Not in daily life. The daily routine of life is the uphold of the positive energy, see? And the working through of what we need to do in daily life. The working through of all those things in the way that we do that within our Hapu iwi. We got a bit more kōrero on Hapu iwi today. We're going to do a lot of that as we look a bit more, we look a bit closer at the plight of the Tūhoe in this space. The plight of the Tūhoe, the Ngāpuhi, the Awa, the Tahupōtiki. Why do I keep putting quotation marks over these groups' names? Why? Because they're nothing like their forebears. We're talking about the Ngāpuhi of today. We're talking about the Tahupōtiki of today. We're talking about Kahungunu of today. We're talking about Rangitane of today. Okay, these groups come into particular view at this moment in time, at this point in time. Why? Why is that? Because such groups have been in opposition to our claims and our settlements to date. Why? Because they remain close with the Crown within the corrupt part of the space that the Crown holds. Crown/Crown. Okay? They hold this corrupt part of the space. It's very corrupted, very dark, very dangerous, and that's what's causing all the trouble. Who leads that space? The Crown does, of course. Crown/Crown. And that's why they cannot deny their part in all this trouble. So 12 more people had to lose their lives before this started to slow down. And things started to become fraught with a bit more normality. And things started to become copeable for those of us under all the strain, under all the pressure, under all the stress and trauma There's a lot of trauma going down over these times. And, yeah, understand that at no time did our people ever want things to end up this way. But there are, I must mention, there are 2 more suspects still on the loose who will be questioned. I just want to bring into play here at this point, we have other security and security just as good, like our awesome security woman. She's actually military. That's Melissa, who always holds the rear for us. And but our chief of security, oh sorry, not Melissa, but Princess, who holds the rear for us, and holding the front and chief of security for us is not a man. I know you are probably thinking, oh, these have got to be some pretty onto it guys. Who there are lots of guys in there within our security. Yeah, we have about 5 different lines of security, mostly males, but right at the head is a female. She's our chief of security, and she has stated to me there are 2 more though on the loose, and she has a meeting with those 2, and that they need to agree to shut down this whole thing. And the only way that this whole thing can be shut down properly and thoroughly, this whole situation, is if these 2 give in to telling the truth to the Crown, to telling the facts to the Crown. I'm going to state that, but just leave it there. I don't want to talk about what this sort of entails or anything, because I don't want to destroy Melissa's kōrero with these people. Okay? Now, that means these 2 suspects, if they disagree, we could end up with another situation like what we've just had. Okay? And these are the only 2 that are left causing all the trouble. Yeah, I don't want to say too much more and ruin things for our chief of security. Okay, yeah, we've got about 5 lines of security. We've got a front line. Chief of security heads that front line. Of course, she's not front line, but she heads everything. And at the rear, we've got military. And heading the military at the rear is Princess, another woman. Again, very capable, very professional security people that are keeping us safe, keeping our claims safe, keeping our settlements safe, and in fact are ensuring that our settlements go forward and we move forward, because we have right of way. We have all the evidence. Even the Crown doesn't have evidence. So we're toppling the Crown and all these others that I've mentioned today. And this is why we're going to go into Hapu iwi as a part of our kōrero today. I'm glad I don't have to focus on all that, yeah, all this other stuff. So I'll leave all of that to Melissa and all of the others who are part of security. I'm sure Melissa will have her closest to partners within her security position there that will also be there at the meeting with these 2 people. I do believe that these people are from the Kahungunu Rangitane, and they need to be shut down, and the whole situation needs to be diffused, but the only way it can be diffused is with these 2. Now, I did mention that some mob in my last kōrero, that some mob, some were shot off, but there wasn't 5, there's about 1 or 2 or something like that, 2 or 3, and they were misleading some of their own people to go against us, to work against us, and so they were causing trouble as well as those people who were going against us, but they were being filled with the wrong information. Now, it wasn't just those mob people, but in fact these two right at the head of everything, and they sit at the head of Kahungunu and Rangitane. Okay, so these people need to diffuse the situation. How? Because of the lies that they keep telling the Crown / Crown. There's only one way that the Crown can back off on its position, and that's if these two tell the truth. And they won't. They keep telling the Crown, oh no, it is ours, it's definitely ours, even though they've got no evidence or anything like that. They know that in their position, the way that they advise the Crown is the way that the Crown's going to always keep going. See? So you can see how misled some of these people who have been shot were. They were getting information from these two, and these two were filling them up with false information. Okay, so that's in depth, very detailed, but I'm only going to go that far. Okay, I don't want to get into anything else. There's a lot finer details in there. Some of those men had to be castrated as well. They were rapists. There was about 6 of them. Rapists, and of the 12 that have just been taken. So if we get another situation, we could have 2 more, in other words. We could have, but I'm not going to put the a certainty on that, because we can't be certain of that. But, my guess is that they will fold and agree to defuse the situation and follow the orders of my chief of security. She's a master. She knows her stuff, and I have always been impressed with her right from the first meeting with her. She became chief of security in the immediacy. Now, and so I leave that situation there. We don't want it to take over our kōrero like my last kōrero, and we'll move forward on things. We're still working forward with our mandating, our settlements, present and future, current and future settlements, mandating our claims. That's for our claim Y2225. We're looking at various claims within that claim, and capacity building around those claims. That's what we're doing at the moment. We're also looking to register all of our people and keep all of the whole 345,000. Now, normally that would take, to mandate that many people, that would take years. So we're going to work hui in the process of doing that, hui that can hold about 1,500. We're not going to go any higher than that. Up to about 1,500. The first 6 of those hui are going to be based around our legal team. Once they're done, within the first 6 of those hui, we're going to continue on with mandating, registering our people and bringing the whole 345,000 together. Okay, e tatama? Yeah, good to have that sort of kōrero come through, and that's good. It's a good idea for us to relax now and be assured that we can have some sort of normality and that the situation can be diffused. It's a pity that we couldn't get the Crown to back off. That would be the most sensible thing to do, and then everyone else would. But no, we've got to go through all this rigmarole because the Crown process is such a failure. It's a farce. The Crown process. It's what are they? They call it faulty. A very faulty process. It's got too many holes in it. E tatama? Too many holes in the Crown /Crown process. Okay, and so we get we get snares like this, where everyone gets snared into a situation and you all got to fight your way forward to try and make it through the situation. It's disgusting because it causes all sorts of chaos. And look at the chaos we've had. Look at it. Even 6 of the last 12 shot dead were castrated, and they were still troublesome. You know, it's disgusting, quite appalling, the whole of the situation. We want, us personally, the Tahumakakanuimatua o Tutura Hapu iwi, We want the Crown to diffuse the situation by switching. They're saying, yes, Tahumakakanuimatua o Tutura Hapu iwi, but they're not going all the way. They're keeping the control under Kahungunu. And that can't happen. That can't happen. We are not from Kahungunu. We are not from Rangitane. And we've got the proof on that. They have no proof to prove that we are. They have no proof to prove that even that these other guys, the Kahungunu Rangitane, even have a proper claim. See? All of their claims are actually falsified claims. Most of their claims are actually over-claims. Okay, seriously. I'm not joking to you. But that the Crown would even support anything like that is a farce. Yeah, the process is so faulty and full of holes. It's a bit of a laugh. In other words, it's a bit of a laugh. That unless you're with the guys that they call them LNGs, that's what I mean when I'm talking about LNGs. Large natural groupings, the Crown / Crown calls them. And they're the people that they exonerate to be the supreme in the land, and they're actually not. They're so outproven, outdated, and so shot down. See, this is why these two are continuing on to try and cut in on our proper settlement of the regions and stop it right there. Yeah, I don't want to go on about that situation though. We'll leave that to our chief, our top of security there, and we will await the outcome of the situation and see what happens there in the next kōrero. But let's move on to the hui coming up, the hui wānanga, we call them, hui / wānanga, where we will get to discuss basically and learn all about our way forward to capacity building around claims within our claim Y2225, which is a very extensive claim. It's a claim to over 1/5 of the country. Now that's huge. That's huge. And a rightful claim, a proven claim, and one that we are continuing on to ensure that certain groups that keep kicking up, those groups that I'd mentioned earlier, they keep kicking up because they can't handle the fact that we bring a more customary claim. We bring a tūturutanga that they know they can't argue with, but they keep going for what the Crown can do for them. Even though it's non-traditional, they'll keep going for what the Crown can do for them. And that's sad, because that means these people are compromising their own tūturutanga for the sake of, they're being greedy and selfish, in other words. And that's the awa tūhoe, ngā puhi, Kahungunu, Rangitane, Tahupo Tiki. They're all being greedy, selfish, and not adhering to the tūturutanga or the customary law. They won't adhere. Just like the Crown does. The Crown ignores our customary law, and they do not adhere to our customary law. And so they do the same, these particular groups. And that's why we're talking Hapu iwi in part of our kōrero today. But the hui wānanga are continuing on, and we've had to move the hui wānanga forward. I remember mentioning to you last kōrero that our hui wānanga was coming up in July, on the 11th and 12th of July. That's been moved now to August. Because we have many of our trustees, directors and governors that cannot make it to that hui. Okay, that's one of the reasons. The other one is because we're still waiting for finance, of course, for those hui and the hui to come. There's going to be lots, but our administration has already agreed and put together a plan through which they can start to tackle through their administrative bodies all of the mandating, particularly online and in other ways, also going forward, and also our registrations. To get those tied down properly, or update them, etc., etc., it takes a lot of work. So administration, our HOA in there, has a lot of work in there. Okay, yeah, so we have some awesome work about to take place in there, and it's also remember me telling you, mentioning to you that Tutuma, that we have also been in a situation where we've had to move with private and confidential means and ways of operating and servicing our people in a lot of cases. Well, this period in time has ensured that we can now work without that. Okay, so our people are starting to be dealt with more so on a face-to-face level and on a face-to-face basis, which is how it should always be. We were being stopped, some of these groups, in fact just about all of these groups that we're going to talk about today, within Hapu iwi contexts, all of these people have stood in the way in one way or other, and tried to shut us down by destroying our population. We had such a big population, they looked to destroy a lot of it and take control of a lot of our population. So we protected a lot of our population, and lucky for that, because we still claim all of that population. How much did we start off with? Was 160, went up to 180, and then that became the majority that we were working with. See, that became the number of people that we can reach. And then we learned that we had 1.8 million people in our entire land space. That's a vast land space that we're talking about here. Our land resources are so vast in the country. We're one of the most extensive hapu iwi in the country. And I do that with iwi. Why? Because iwi is a word that is not used in its tuturu context today. Okay, it's used to describe the most extensive of the hapu. Okay, let's make that clear. Iwi is not a tuturu word. So all those people using iwi today to mean people, ai te ahuahe tēnā kōrero. Ahuahe ke tēnā kōrero. Okay, so we need to have a good look at things like that, those of us who are adamant that they all have an iwi. Okay, because most of them are not. They're in fact using falsified information to describe a grouping that is, for most of them, neither an iwi or hapu. See, and this is the hard case part about it. And they've got there's about 5 different definitions for iwi itself out there floating around, and it's all started off by the tūhoi. You know why? Because the tūhoi can't handle it, because they're not iwi. See, they can't handle it, so they go floating around all these different interpretations on what an iwi is, and we know what that is exactly. We know what that is, tuturu. So the tūhoi can never recolonize us like they've recolonized Kahungunu, like they've recolonized Rangitane. Ngā puhi are the same, they're recolonized by tūhoi, and also Awa, we believe, is colonized to an extent by the tūhoi. Okay, which is sad. That's sad, because they're one of the iwi of the country. They're the only hapu iwi that tramples other hapu iwi, and in fact they trample the seniorities of the country. That's the only hapu iwi in the country that does that. So what is an iwi? It's the most extensive hapu that you can get. What is a hapu? That is the proper name for a super tribe. Okay, that's the proper name for a super tribe. The proper term, the proper term for a super tribe, or a tribe with a birth line that assures it a hapu. See, hapu have a birth line, okay, that assures that it's a hapu. Uri have a birth line that assure that it's an uri. Okay, they have uri birth lines. Okay, all right, you get the difference. Now, uri ariki uretārewa, and in particular, one of those people that ensures that they have an uri whānau uri birth line. They still have their rangatira, they still have their ariki, they still have their tohunga, but they're not of the status of a hapu. Why? Because they haven't got a hapu birth line. Or Kahungunu, which is made up of the tri dynasty, or the dynasty paramountcy. See? That's where your hapu begins. We're going to get into that kōrero a bit later. But those are the hui. Now, our hui wānanga have been put forward to August 8th and 9th. August 8th and 9th, that's the Friday and Saturday of August 8th and 9th. We will have our Tahumakakanuimatua o Tutura hapu iwi. O Tutura hapu iwi hui wānanga. And that'll be the first one to begin, and we will start to initiate the physical unification of our people. Before, we could only depend on other means of unification because it was far safer, far more workable, and in some cases not so workable, but we had to we controlled the things that we could. See, and we left the things that we couldn't, because if we went for the things that we couldn't, we would have ended up in all these sorts of big fights that have been going on would have happened back then. Okay, and we'd never back down. That's what the problem is too. We're not a group to back down. Okay, so yeah, that's the situation with that. So we avoided that. We managed what we could manage. And we put up with all the garbage from the opposition, all the garbage from some of these ones that have been shot dead. It's just been utter turmoil and chaos right through, and absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. I've had a good look through every case, every single case. And it's absolutely shocking and disgusting. So apart from those 6, there were another 8 men castrated. That's our Tuturu way, by the way. That's customary to our people. We castrate men who are like that. We castrate them. We cut out their genitals. Okay, so that's what happens. Some of them, if they still be if there's still a terror in the space or within the situation, they get taken out. And so, yeah. Look, marvellous, a lot of the work that's happening though. Let's not take the shine off all of that. The marvellous positive work that we're always trying to push forward, trying to do for our people, all 345,000. Whenever I speak online, I represent 449,000 people. That's among the top lines of the country, the most senior in the country. And those are the people amongst Moai Hapu Iwi that are left of today, the Te Awa Hapu Iwi that are left of today, and Tahumakakanuimatua o Tutura Hapu Iwi, or 345,000. Māmoe as well, who are part of that, and of course the Te Arawa, I mentioned them. They have the ariki, they have acquired the ariki of Māmoe today. and the whole 67,000 and I think 1,800 or something like that, 67,000, 180 of Te Arawa are all under that line today. We also have, look at all the positive work going on there, massive work. We have the Ahorangi at work in our junior lines. Why? Because from the seniors down into the the top 6 lines of our Hapu iwi are absolutely well established, full of substance, full of strength. We haven't completed things by any means, but the Ahorangi looked at where we're at, and I don't think his judgment's wrong. I think we have it sorted there within those top lines. And of course we've got the top general in the country that we consider the top general in the country, working within our 6th line, which is the line of Tahumakakanuimatua, one of the Uretā Hapu, whānau uri of Tahumakakanuimatua, and in fact the 6th line itself. Okay, and so we applaud all of that fine work that is happening in there, strengthening, empowering, educating, informing, and leading our people. That's what these particular people are doing. The Ahorangi being an expert, one of the experts of old within the society, within the community of old, of our people amongst villages and amongst also communities that had that knowledge base of just about everything in the society. They could ensure the establishment and the development and the advancement of every area in society, and that's who we've got operating there, the Ahorangi, and also, as I said last, kōrero gifted to us by the Te Arawa, wonderful, and of course the top general of the country working with our people within the Tahumakakanuimatua at the moment. He, a personal friend of mine, also of Te Arawa. Okay, and that's what we consider that person to be. I mean, everyone else can have their opinions, but we don't care. And we have to be serious about that. You know why? Because Te Tahumakakanuimatua have to, they would have none other working with them in these days and in this day and age. Because Te Tahumakakanuimatua is still the leading defensive military line of our Hapu iwi still surviving today. Okay, we would have that group worked with by no other. Okay, and so moving forward at Tatama, it's good to kōrero too about all of that, because all of those people will be at our hui. That's the 8th and 9th of August, that's when they begin. And unification, the physical unification entirely of our people begins right throughout the motu, not just through these hui, but right throughout the motu. Okay, and at a certain point, perhaps next year, or maybe even the year after, or even, maybe in 18 months' time, we will get to take the hui from throughout each of the aukatitai, each of the divides of the country, the Tutura divides, or the customary national divisions of the country, the northern, eastern, western and southern divides of the country that existed millennia ago. Okay, we still uphold those divides. We uphold them within our Hapu iwi. We are some of the originals of those divides, so why wouldn't we? Okay, and through the divides you can see the developments of each of the Hapu iwi in the country, how they moved, why, the consistencies of their hapu iwi, their ure tārewa. Okay, of course we know they need between 5 and 7 to 8 plus to formulate an iwi of the ure tārewa. That is the hapu birth lines born by a dynasty of paramount seas, all in a straight line. So that is to say, a grandfather, a father, and son line of dynasty of paramountcy, one following the other, giving the third one providing the third one the mana to formulate a hapu. Okay, to formulate a hapu. Why? Because that's what formulates a hapu birth line, or a hapu kahakanui. Okay, is that understood? E tatama. That'd be good if that would be clearly understood now. Forget all the stories of Tuhua. Forget all the variations that they're putting out there of what an iwi is. We all know what that is. That is a hapu at its most extensive, its most advanced. Okay, that's what an iwi is. Where did the name iwi come from, or the term iwi come from? It came from the crown. That wasn't a tuturu term used in that context. Okay, what is the tuturu context and name for a hapu? For a people, a hapu. But a hapu in the sense of a hapu iwi, that's the proper name for a people. Okay. Okay, argue with that all you like. Tuhua can argue all they like. At the end of the day, they're just bummed out because they're uri wha na uri, and that's all they'll ever be. If they don't get off their chuffs and start doing something about getting their ure tārewa together, that'll give them an ure tārewa that gives us a birthline, a hapu birthline. Okay? Okay, awesome. There's lots of awesome work going on, eh? You've got to give praise where it's due. Give praise where it's due. The young ahorangi that we've got there too. Wow, you've got to give praise where it's due. He's starting with the muau poko. I haven't checked through how that is going yet. So I don't quite know, but I know there's lots of good work going on in there. Lots of good work. He's also helping out within the Tahumakakanuimatua with the general. And this is how good this general is, because for him to be able to match a nahorangi in battle, yeah, sometimes they've within their groups of classes within the wharetūtaua, I'm told they're having battles and they're looking to pin each other, him and the ahorangi. So, you know, flat tack, you know, 100-mile-an-hour battles, him and the ahorangi, and the ahorangi is a professional and an expert in the wharetūtaua and the whare maire, which are the areas, the institutions, the faculties of the knowledge of martial arts, war, battle, military, everything military. Kairotona. Okay? Kairotona. And so we are very, very fortunate to have all of these things happening. Yeah, I wish I was a part of that school, you know. I don't get to go into schools like that, into wharetūtaua like that, learning situations like that, and just getting to watch the two veteran hands in the wharetūtaua go at it, you know, hammer and tongs at each other. And sometimes I'm being told they go for ages. It takes ages for someone to pin someone, eh? And they're loving it. They're loving it. The students in there from Te Ao Matarahimatua are just absolutely loving it. And a lot of the choicest kōrero and work being done in there, we are so very proud of. The general and the ahorangi for their working their fine arts and their martial arts. And of course they're becoming self-defensive. We're going to be the first Hapu iwi. I'll just talk briefly about that. We're getting into utilising our whare tūtaua. Not so much our whare maire, but our whare tūtaua as a self-defensive mechanism for our people today. So, yeah, whether you're in groups or whether you're on your own late at night, walking home sometimes, you hear about people getting attacked, you hear about women being raped late at night sometimes. Yeah, you wouldn't want to mess with that. If those people were, you wouldn't want to get into trying to mess with those sorts of people who feel capable enough of walking home at night. You wouldn't want to mess with them if they were people from us today, because they would have a self-defensive mechanism that would take you right to the brink of death. They would take you right to the edge. These sorts of people, I assure you. They won't take you to death, because we're not trained to be a self-defense people like that. They would be to do it the old way. The old way is like that. But that's only one of the ways they used to work the old way, and this is why we wanted to work it as a self-defense mechanism, something that's never been done before. There were lots of other variations of how we would take the enemy. Okay, lots of other different ways, like via stealth, via karakia, via incantation. In other words, stealth. We can take enemy like that. Sometimes we don't even have to touch them, we've got them. Okay, things like that. There are karakia or incantations for almost anything and everything that you can think of. And this is how sophisticated we were in those times, in the times of the 1840s, 1850s. We were still a very, very sophisticated, very tuturu people, though times and things were changing rapidly. And yeah, we're not surprised that at that time that the Crown / Crown moved in on that timing. They moved in on it quite swiftly too, and they took control of everything and moved everything forward. Brought in the racial parliament, a little bit like, you see that on a lot of the politics going on today, coming out of the Westminster system down in Wellington there. Still the same. Still, institutionally racist, which is still racism. You would think that 2 centuries down the track, whilst the Crown / Crown has been in control of this country, that sort of thing would have gone out the window by now, and it's still not out the window. It's still here, still being practiced. And just moving on with our kōrero so that we know exactly what is to come as well. Hapu iwi, that's coming up soon, and we've got the Take-Korero-O-Te-Wa. There's a lot happening there as well. And we've got the Take-Korero-O-Te-Wa. We've got the where are we? And the Atotau uako I te tonu. Okay, that's the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible. We've got a little more on that, and our 2 versions of that we're going to be bringing about eventually in translation in our reo. A little bit on the reo matua going on there too as well. A lot of people have been asking, well, why aren't we putting our reo out there much, and why aren't we putting it out there in our usual standards, our very, our top standards? We haven't been utilising that, and we said, well, we're more so protecting it today. We need to. And the reason for that is we've got, some of these groups are actually all of them now, because we know that in Tahupōtiki they started a regime of messing about with our reo down there in the south. They were actually killing it down there, killing the reo. They've slowed that up of late, as far as I know, but yeah, that's some of the kōrero going on down there. It opens us up for abuse if we just blatantly continue to utilise our reo. I'll tell you something, another reason why we did stop that was it became too obvious to us that the overconfidence of some of our opposition was urged on, was egged on by our use of our reo, which is a shame. Okay, that's a bit of a shame. And so we stopped it right there and then. Okay, and then they, the silly people, the opposition, they got their karakia, they got their incantations, they opened up their screens to target in on our project, and they started to steal the reo that way. We put a stop to all of that too. They can't do that anymore. And most of the ringleaders of all of that are now dead. Yeah, there's some of those people. Okay? Working unlawfully with the karakia is not something we enjoy today, and not something our tūpuna, our ancestors, would have actually put up with or allowed to happen. You would have got severely punished if you were Tahumakakanuimatua and utilising the incantation incorrectly or illegally. Okay, a lot of that goes on today. This is why we won't join anything occult, anything negative, anything adverse, anything derogatory. Not today, within our law system. We outlawed that back in 2005. All of that got outlawed in Tahumakakanuimatua o te tira hapu iwi. So yeah, a little bit more on that, on the Paipera and on the Atotaua ko ua ko I te tonu, the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, that the whole world is saying is the whole and the proper word of the Lord now. The entire word of God. Yeah. I'm still freaking out that we're a people that we come direct from those people, the Ethiopian people and the super tribes of Ethiopia, the Atotaua Maka, who were the Kushites. Yeah, I'm still trying to intellectualize all of that, and from some of the first Christians of the world. That's an amazing thing. I don't know quite how we will move forward with that, but I know we will, as an hapu iwi, we will remain God first, and we'll never try to make people go Christian or anything like that. That's by the the personal will of the person. People need to be left to be allowed to do that sort of thing, and rightfully so. But God first, yes, we will always remain, and it was always God first prior to Christianity. That's my knowledge on things, for our people anyway, for our ancient seniors anyway, for Ethiopians and the super tribes of Ethiopia, including the Atotaua Maka, who we are. Needless to say, we still have the entirety of our culture and our heritage to uphold. So though there will be some things we will take on and take forward with us from Atotaua Maka, from Atotaua Ko, I dare say, I have to say, we at the end of the day will remain within our culture and the way that we decide how we might go about things, etc., etc., etc. But with a proud knowledge of where we have come from. And I think sometimes in terms that we would need to uphold a certain amount of heritage and culture within our entire journey from since we left the ato taua ko, the ato taua maka. Because we have returned, yes, we have returned to enjoy those establishments from where we have come, but also to share with them our culture and our heritage and where we have ended up. Okay, but that's not without taking on a lot of the good learnings that we know that we have to learn from the ato taua ko and the ato taua maka. And there's a lot there. What we do with that is entirely up to those of our decision makers and our political leaders, our people, and what we do with that. And there's a lot there, so I won't go into that too much, but that's some of the kōrero coming up. We also have the, just briefly, the RSB. And I understand that's what I'm going to be finishing off with today, the RSB, or the Regulatory Standards Bill. Another piece of rubbish legislation brought forward by the Seymour character. Now I'm getting sick and tired of this character. He gets into Parliament through, he tutu puehu. He tutu he kōrori kōrero, he kōrori take noiho. Te mea a tēnei o te nanaki anei, o te, wairangi kia mātai, wairangi. We think he's an absolute fool. And I'll tell you why. Because this bill, he wants to go a step further now and try to control everyone's destiny, not just those of the super tribal of the country, the native indigenous of the country. Okay, he had the Treaty Principles Bill trying to take total control of the future of our super tribal indigenous native people, and they still make the mistake of calling us a race. We're not a race, we're super tribal. Races are totally different. A race is sort of an establishment, a core establishment from whence lots of different groups of people have come, and from whence, like Africans, for instance, you look at Africa, the vast continent of Africa, and you look at all the different tribal groupings that are in there. That's what I mean. So the race of people would be Africans. And for us, if we were a race, there wouldn't be Māori, that's for sure. There wouldn't be Māori. Okay? And in fact, for us, it would be perhaps Abyssinians. See? Abyssinians. That would be the race that we come from. Otherwise, we're super tribal, and we always have been. Ever since the ato taua maka, right through the Azura of India and Africana, of Egypt, our Kush intermarriages with Egypt, right through. We've always been super tribal. So they can't really label us a race of people, because that wouldn't be true. And this Seymour character, I'm a little sick and tired of him. He needs to get the idea that most of us don't want anything to do with him. Most of us know exactly how he's been coming into power, and what he's been doing has been stirring up for want of a word, I won't put it that way. I'll put it in terms of saying the Pākehā voter. He's been stirring up the Pākehā voter, stirring up racial tensions right throughout our communities in the country, and he's been winning his vote that way. And then he devises all these racial atrocities he calls a bill. Yeah, and he calls legislation. Well, we got news for him. I haven't. We've started to read the bill and look at it, but we are just coming to terms with some of the mechanisms in there. A little bit complex, but yeah, all in all, we can generally summarize and get the idea, get the gist of the entirety of the bill. So it tends to now cover everybody. So a lot of these Pākehā voters that he's roped in are now getting sucked in to being under his control. What a terrible politician. This man doesn't understand politics as well as he might think. Seymour needs to realize it's a bit more than just being able to drum up votes and being able to cause trouble amongst, and chaos amongst the people, and try and get his way, make his way to power. He's now what they call a deputy prime minister. And I can't believe that such an idiot would be a deputy prime minister in this country. What an idiot. And I think, most of the seniorities of the country, amongst the super tribal of the country, the Hapu nation of the country, in other words, most of us would disagree with his swearing in as any sort of prime minister or deputy of any sort in this country. And the ACT Party has to be well aware that a lot of the politics that it's playing in the country are causing havoc right across the country. This is the idiot that decided that he would devise with his ACT Party the Treaty Principles Bill, which just got thrown out. We went into that whole argument against opposing it with our 445,000 people amongst the seniorships in the country, as I represent every time I call it on. So not just 345 of my own people of Tahumakakanuimatua, or the percentage that is Te Awa of my own people in the country, but also the Moai Hapu iwi of the country, those that who are remaining and who are central or tuturu pu to Moai Hapu. Okay, now a little bit more to say on that bill later on, but what a load of trash. This is another one that should have been trashed before it even got in, and shouldn't have actually got in. And I think it's going to go to the same process. That's what I hear. The same process. It's like the Treaty Principles Bill, Part 2, and disgusting. This man's politics, not just divisive. It's not just overpowering. It's not just a dictatorship in the making, but his legislation is not legislation as far as we're concerned. It's a power trip. This man's on a power trip, and he thinks he's got the way to the top. We disagree. We disagree that he's ever going to get there on real politics. He needs to get real, this David Seymour. So, I've got a little bit to say on that, and we probably will take just a wee bit more time, perhaps a week, to have a good look at that bill. I'm not too sure about that. I might start writing our submission up in a day or two, because I usually don't take too long to mull over things. Once I've got the main ideas, I run with what we think, exactly what we think and what we want to bring forward. Now again, he wipes out the original intentions of Te Tiriti. That's where our first concern comes from, because those original intentions need to be brought back in today. Without them, our people will never see justice. Without them, we will always be ripped off in this country. We will always be in the oppressed state we are in this country, and we will always be held down in this country by a crown / crown entity that cares not about that right now. They don't even like the fact that we're going around saying we've got the proof to have them out of the country, and that's because we have. See, we're not actually boasting about that. But they are part of a rip-off regime that fraudulated our ancestors of their sovereignty and then of their land, and absolutely took, they heisted everything in this country from our ancestors, and we've got all the proof of that. Okay, and so we'll be getting that underway. One other kaupapa we would have gone into, if we get time, we'll talk a wee bit about Whiunga as well. Whiunga is by all means the mechanism by which a lot of these things we will achieve, is through Whiunga. It's one of the most powerful tools at our disposal. Again, like I've said before in previous kōrero, for te runanga Whiunga, it is part of the answer for the political turmoil of our country, the political state of our country, and the answer, part of the answer to the problems with our country. Okay, we're not professing to have all the answers. Okay, but Westminster needs to stop and think, because actually, if Westminster still thinks that they've got all the answers, they're dreaming. Just like the crown / crown, who fraudulently took control of this country, they were dreaming too. And so we're not going to stick by Westminster and support Westminster anymore. Our people haven't gone off politics. We've just gone more on to getting the politics right. And getting the politics where our people, our native indigenous in the country, and our super tribal in the country, our Hapu nation, where that needs to be right in the country. And if that's not part of the answer, I don't know what is. Okay, because that's going to stop us having to go to this silly process and system within a Westminster, still institutionally racist system to try and fight for what we need. We shouldn't have to. So now our people, hopefully soon, our people will be able to go to Whiunga, or go under that system, the system of Te Runanga Whiunga, system from 1815 onwards, that got trampled to bits by the crown / crown. Okay? And then eventually went into recess in 1947. Well, it's now back in motion, back in action, and we understand we are on the way to bringing it into preparation for reconvening. Okay, and I thought I would share that right now, because there's an option for our people. Amongst our people, we have some very brave leaders and powerful leaders. We don't need to go to the Westminster system to get powerful politicians and leaders. We have our very own amongst all of the Hapu iwi who know firsthand the Hapu iwi. Okay, we're sick and tired of having to explain or describe our origins, or describe exactly how we do things in the country anymore to a Westminster system who doesn't really care anyway. They just want us to do and be how they want us to be, and that's no go from here. That's no go from us. They want us to fit into this narrow view that they have of us, this monolingual, monocultural view that they have of us within the Westminster system, that needs to be shut out. And there's one way to shut it out, and that's Te Runanga ko Huiara. So we're going to be talking a little bit of that. So there's all our kōrero for today. We're going to work on through, because isn't that awesome that we are beginning the Hui Wānanga? So the Hui Wānanga date and time has changed now to 8th and 9th of August, and that's when we will start to work with our people in unity. We will go through the 6 Hui with our legal team, and then continue on with mandating and continue on with unifying our people right throughout the country. That means registering them, that means continuously working with them as the representative body that we are, and that we strongly have been for the last 27 years, bringing together one of the strongest iwi, Hapu iwi in the country. And this is why some of these groups feel the pinch. You know, they felt the pinch right at the start. They couldn't handle it. They couldn't hack it. Tūhoe can't hack it. Awa, I think it's mostly ignorance that the problem is with awa. Ngā puhi, well, misled really. Misled ngā puhi. They don't realise this, ngā puhi, but they've thrown away 30 years of progress. 30 years of progress. This is what they're doing today, throwing away 30 years of progress to go back to their old haunt of just being a blowbag. And that's all they're going to be, ever, if they don't cut that out. Okay? That was their old haunt. They were just a blowbag. And you know what? They've gone straight back to that. I don't know whether they even realise that, so I sort of made a point of that. I better tell them clearly where they're headed. They're headed backwards, back to where they were before they started making progress in the space over 30 years to being a blow-ass. That's all they're ever going to be if they continue that way. And that blow-ass was born under the crown, /crown. And they've gone back under that. You know, similar to the running away of Kahungunu Rangitane from the fight. They sort of made a fight, and then they ran away to the crown to try and get some protection, and that didn't protect them at all. We still got to them. We still kicked their ass in the process, and now they're trying to criminally keep control of it, and they can't. Yeah. That whole fight, that whole trouble that they put up, that they started. See? And that's what I said to people along the way as I continue to hammer into those tribes. People said to me, oh, shouldn't you be being a lot nicer to them? Oh, I fucking doubt it, I said. These cunts are, you know, what they're doing to me is they're trampling on even my toes personally. These people, they deserve a good punch in the head. See? And they started it. They started it. And now we're about to end it. Okay, and we knew it would come to that. But we were waiting to see if they had a brain first. And it appears that in most cases, at the moment, they haven't. Okay, let's see if these two leaders of theirs have got a brain. Because, yeah, we don't want this to end up in total annihilation of those groups and their leaders who have been causing all the havoc in the space. Okay, all right, let's move on to the Paipera Korotu and our plans to give it a 12-month recess. Okay, we were going to give the whole project a 12-month recess, re-strategize around the whole of the project. At some point we may be able to bring the use of the reo matua back in, but I'm sorry, all those asking for the reo out there, we can't bring that in. Because we've made our opposition too overconfident that they can actually acquire that, and that's not true. That's not true. The reason we started utilising our taonga tukuiho online and everywhere else around the space, offline and online, was because we wanted to continue to keep comms really, really strong with our own people. And that is to say, our people that actually were agreeable to remain under us. Those that rebelled against that, like the Kahungunu Rangitane, who ran away like that, off to hide away under the skirt tails of the crown/crown. Of course, that's a bit different today. But when they did run away to that, it was still skirt tails, okay? They actually are not aware. They're not aware. But ever since they did that, they devised their own destiny when they did that. And their destiny, coming up, causing a fight, causing a scrap with an opposition like us, was always going to be the end of them. Okay? And that's what's coming. That's what's coming. The Crown can't disagree with this. And once our Chief of Security deals with that whole situation, it needs to be diffused. And she's a champion at that. It needs to be diffused. And Melissa will take good care of all of that. I'm very, very sure. And then we can get on with our job here. Stop being disrupted by these idiots. Stop being interfered with by these idiots. And Tūhoe being one of them. Awa, a close second. Ngāpuhi, who are just, they're really just misled by their seniorships. And who are all terribly junior to us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're about, there's at least a couple of hundred at least each way. 2, 4, at least 1,000 or so lines down in juniority. How dare they? How dare these people challenge us from that particular status point or position in the motu? How dare they challenge us and think that they, overconfidently that they could defeat us in this space, in the Hapu iwi space. Okay, so for the Paiparakuroitu, for the Reo Matua, I'm sorry, but for now you'll have to put up with us not using it and not using it at top standard. I'm sorry about that. But until these groups settle down, until they stop stealing our taonga tikuiho and trying to take it on and trying to say, we should be leading, and all of these sorts of things. That's what gives them the overconfidence to be able to say things like that. Taonga like the reo. See that? Taking it, scribbling it down really, really quick and then learning it for themselves and then making out that they're tuturu and stuff like that. And we're not going to let them be able to do that anymore. Okay, that is in other words, the abuse of our reo matua, and we're not going to allow that anymore. Okay, that's what they were doing with the project as well. Zooming in, open goes the screen for them. They were able to target in with their incantations, and they were able to have a look in there, watch our people working away there and stealing the reo that was coming out of there. And then they were going to their people, we are tuturu this, tuturu that, and kai te he tēnā kōrero. Okay, they were far from tuturu, and most of those people are dead now. Okay, these sorts of acts need to be shut down. They would never have been put up with in tuturu society. Never. Okay, such tramplings against the law of Hapu iwi was not tolerated. Okay, and so we're going to ensure that things stay that way. So our te reo matua we're not utilising either. None of our reo, not even our reo a hapu iwi. Okay, we're not using either of them. So plans are to come back to it in 12 months' time, or in other words, next June. We will come back, meet with the what happens between there. Well, we'll advise you of what's happening as time goes on, but things may change during that time. Okay, things may change, and we're hoping for that. We're hoping, though, to get more control of that particular part of the space, where the project can move forward and progress and advance slowly but surely. That's how we want it to move. And the way we've had it of late, we're sad to say, but we think it's not going to get to be able to operate in that way, because we know there are still some people still surviving today, especially in the Hawke's Bay region, that are still alive today. There were some of those thieves using karakia targeting in and watching our project and stealing out here within Hawke's Bay Waiwa. Why would they do that? Because they know we got the top reo in the country. It's us with the top reo in the country, and they're trying to steal it, and then they'll try and say it's theirs. You know, all that sort of abuse by groups that are lesser in status. That's shocking for a reo like us. That's shocking maltreatment of a reo like that. We're talking inter-tribally, inter-super tribally. Okay, that's shocking treatment. And not only is that illegal, but that sort of abuse is part of the reason as to why our reo is, you know, a lot of the time they blame colonization and the Pākehā for misuse of our reo. Look at that. There's a lot of misuse of our own, of the reo. That's destroying the reo. Okay, people like me know about stuff like that. And we know where it happens, when it happens, and how it happens. And we stamp on it. We jump on it straight away. Aloha mai. And so that sort of abuse of the reo cannot happen. That sort of kohuru of the reo, or the killing of the reo, the murdering, murderous treatment of the reo, cannot happen with people like me. Okay? Now, yeah, that's what's happening with the Paipirakuroitu. So our first translation, our first version of the NKJV is being held up. But isn't it awesome that the Atotaua Kohua Ko Ite Tonu is being called right around the world, the whole of the Word of God? And that's quite a change from the Nicaea Council, who said, oh, they were apocrypha, you know, a lot of the scriptures were true, blah blah blah. So the whole world is now turned against them. and what the most amusing thing is for us is that we're part of the people that actually that stood up and continue to retain the originality of the scriptures right through all of the millennia since then, since the Nicaea Council, which is round about 300 AD, something like that. 300 AD was the Nicaea Council that changed Christianity. The original status and the original establishments of Christianity were changed by the Nicaea Council, by Western civilization, in other words. Yeah, Western civilization, and that's yeah. Though it's not very nice today, we've got it right. Thank God for that. Thank God for that. Thank the Lord for that. Lord, thank you. Thank you for that. That the world has got it right now. Something yeah, coming from that people, being part of that people. Who knows how things will evolve in the future? We know today, being proud, Tahumakakanuimatua Te Wa, of Moai, that we are under no illusion, and we know that the purpose of our people too is to retain our culture and heritage, and also to look at the lessons we can learn and the aspects of culture and heritage of our senior ancestries, and where we feel that they can assist us and support us going forward, we can take those on. But we have to decide that for ourselves. We have to do that by our own free will, and things like that. Being allowed to do that. This is what we've moved into now. We're now allowed to do that. Whereas in the past, before we created this nuance, if you like, within our culture and heritage, within our tikanga me te kawa, before we created that, we didn't have a chance to do that at all. We just had to follow our old way. Now, our real two are kind of involved with everything. So, now and again, we can turn to them, instead of depending on just what our super tribal world has to offer and the seniorities here. We can actually depend on also our senior ancestries, our tuakana of old, of ancient times, and we can glean and obtain answers and responses to different situations for us from them. Okay, and so that means to say that the Atotaua ko ua ko, or the Orthodox, the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, or the Itetonu, is being held up as well. Okay, the other one there, the Atotaua ko ua ko o Wero, is also obviously being held up, and that's the Reo Hapu Iwi version that we're going to do. So the same with our Owero Te O Noeia, or the Owero Uwhakeia means the same thing, but we thought Te O Noeia was a better word and a more appropriate word to use in that place instead of Uwhakeia. And Te O Noeia, though it means the same thing, it's a much better word for us to use in that place, in that position there, which is the Reo Hapu Iwi one, which is the language of relationship, a relationship building and retaining language. That is the Reo Hapu Iwi. The one we were always coming to. Well, people wanted to get into our consistencies, our componentries within such reo, and tried to steal that from us and abuse all of that, which is a shame, because a lot of our people across the world really took to that reo. It's a pity we can't openly continue to use that now. So we just have to await a time when we can, and then that particular Bible, the Owero Te O Noeia, can then go forward, and the same with the Atotaua ko ua ko o Wero. That one can go forward as well. Okay, but until then, the whole tribal mess that's continuing on today needs to be shut down. Okay, and now we come on to Hapu Iwi. Now, yeah, I've already discussed with you some of the some of the primary aspects of that, some of those concepts in there. Tiuretareva, the Hapu birthline. What gives us the Hapu? The Hapu birthline is born through the Uretareva, that is Tahipu Mā Takitahi, or Tri dynasty. Uretareva Ariki Tahipu Mā Takitahi. Okay, the Tri dynasty. Built of 3 Uretareva Ariki, a grandfather, a father, and a son. And it always comes, obviously, through the male line. That's where those particular birth lines are born. And how do they come to be physically? The wife is always an uere will be, or she is a queen. Okay, so they have wives who are queens, and that's how the birth line starts to descend. Let's not forget the wife's role in there. Okay, so if you don't have that, then you do not have a hapu. So all of those, like some of these people, some of the people like Tūhoe, Tahupōtiki, who are going around saying, oh, we're an iwi, you know, and they're not, because they're not even a hapu yet. See, they've got Uretareva Ariki, but they haven't got 3 of them in a row. So they don't have yet a hapu, because they need that in order to have a hapu birthline, which is what gives you that hapu, which comes out of the 3rd in that line, the dynasty, the Uretareva Ariki Tahipu Mā Takitahi, and gives you, through the marriage of each of those queens onto the 3rd queen, that's what gives you your hapu birthline. Okay, is that a lot better explained in that? Does that give you the whole of the picture, the whole of the image there? Yeah. I think some of our people just need that sort of explanation of everything in order to understand what we mean. If you haven't got that, then you haven't got a hapu, and therefore you haven't got a show of trying to be an iwi. Okay? Even today, one of the definitions today is that they're saying that even that's an iwi, o kai te he tēnā. Because originally, when the Crown started to use that word iwi, and the Pākehā started to use that word iwi, it was always intended for the most extensive of the hapu. And there's ample evidence of that. Balara and all those people, Penelope, yeah, all those people that John White, Best, all those people, they talk about the iwi. So that's always the most extensive. Now, Tūhoe are not on that line. Tūhoe are not even a hapu. They don't have. They might have an Uretareva Ariki, and who has married a queen, but they've only got one in there. So they've only got Uri Whanauri. See? Because they haven't got a hapu birthline yet, anywhere in Tūhoe. Is that understood? Is that understood? Same with Ngāpuhi. They haven't got that either. They go around calling all their groups hapu, and none of them have got a hapu birthline. See, there's no kahakanoi that came out of a Uretareva Ariki Tahipu Mā Takitahi. That's what you call that. Okay, so can we get it right out there, please? Because I'd like our people to stop running with this Crown entity whose days are numbered. This Crown entity, their days are numbered in this country. Okay? Once they've finished all these settlements and they've sorted it all out for us, we're going to start a new round in Kohuiara. And the whole of the 7 hapu iwi are going to be settled back into this country. 100% back into this country. Because that's what we're going to do. That's one of those initial things that we see as vitally important to the survival of our people in this country. Vitally important to addressing the grievances of our people, and vitally important to seeing that real justice is reached for us in this country. Not the kind of piecemeal justice that you might get in a couple of centuries from this Westminster Wellington system they got going on down there. And the Crown entity that dictates over the top of that. Fraudulent, I might add. Fraudulent and unlawful and disrespectful. That's what they are to us. We've even had to obviously fight for our settlements and our rights to be recognised in this country. You know, our lawyer has said to us, you know what? They're taking away our voice in this country. And I said, you know what? We're not even worried about that. We're not worried about that. You know why? And she says to us, why? And we said, because we've got a voice without them. You know, we've got a voice without them. We don't need them to have a voice. Why would we need them to have a voice? We had a voice before they got here into the country, and we'll have a voice when they're gone again. We don't care. We don't care about that. To us, they're the ones with no voice, because they got no legal voice. They got no legal standing. They got no legal anything in this country. They're gone. That's what I said to our lawyer, in not so many words. Okay, so this is what some of these groups need to realise, that staying under the Crown, you know, whose days are numbered in this country, is, not the safest thing to do. They're going to need to reverse a lot of their likelihood of doing that sort of thing. Okay, running under the Crown, thinking that the unlawful, dictating, authoritarian ways of the Crown are going to help them up against a group like us. Kahure. Kahure kai. Kahure kai. The Crown's not going to help you, because we've got more than the Crown has to offer in this country. We've got more of the truth. I've seen a lot of these Crown and government and opposition party to any indigenous politics in the country. All these opposition groups, lobby groups as well, posting here and there throughout social media, and posting all these posts on what they think is to do. Gosh, there's a load of rubbish out there getting posted from Busby, from all these others. Perhaps Seymour was educated by some of these people. Perhaps they're being lobbied through Hobson's Pledge, who's absolutely, you know, their learnings are so vague and so disoriented, so disorientated. It's not funny. It's not funny. So yeah, they need to get out of this sort of act of following these rubbish pieces of evidence from Busby and all those people who were absolute criminals. We have the evidence of that. Hobson, absolute criminal. We have the evidence of that. And so we are not that silly. But groups like Tutura, who don't even have a Hapu birth line, Tahupōtiki, they're the same, they don't have a Hapu birth line. Kahungunu, they're the same, they don't have a Hapu birth line. To have an iwi, let's get straight to the point, to have an iwi, or a most extensive Hapu, advanced Hapu to the extent that one can get to, you've got to have between 5 and 7 to 8 plus of those. See? That's what formulates a Hapu iwi, or an iwi, or a Hapu in the Tuturu sense. They're just Hapu, but of the most extensive of the ranges of Hapu that you can have. Okay? So do we understand what that is now? Mapuhi, get it right. Get it right. Stop following the Tutura who are informing you on exactly what that is. If you don't have Uretare wa ariki tahipu mā takitahi, then forget it. You don't have a hapu birth line anywhere. And you don't. We've already studied all your lines. You don't. You have Uretare wa ariki, you have Orere we o te I, but you don't have Uretare wa ariki tahipu mā takitahi. You don't have that. Nowhere. Okay, you have Rangatira. You have Tahumakakanuimatua. Yeah, you have all those people, all those prestigious, the Ruanuku, te mea. But you don't have an iwi. Why? Because you don't yet have a hapu birth line. And to have a hapu iwi, or an iwi, or a hapu that is of the most extensive of the ranges of hapu, then that is because you don't have 5 to 7 to 8 plus. Uretare wa ariki tahipu mā takitahi. Along with their, of course, their orere we o te I. Or their orere o te mahu mā. That's what we call them. Ariki wahine. Ariki wahine. Okay? Now, please get on to it. Ngā puhi. Tūhoe, you're the same. Awa are the only hapu iwi among you. They're the only hapu of the most extensive that one can be. Okay? It's a shame they're so ignorant. So kuware, awa. That's the biggest gripe I have with them. They're so kuware. And they'll jump straight on the colonial side straight away. And they'll trample you to bits. This is the thing I don't like about the awa. They're so ignorant, and they're the only hapu iwi, or hapu of the most extensive or iwi in the country that'll trample the other hapu iwi. Why? Because they're so kuware. They're so ignorant. Okay, tahupo tiki, you're the same. Kahungunu, you're the same. Rangitane, now you're Uretare hapu whanauri. So you're a composite or a sub-tribe as well. That's what that means. Whanauri in brackets. Whanauri in brackets, if you've got that beside your status, how we write you up anywhere. Like for tūhoe uri whanauri. Whanauri means you're a composite, which is another way of saying you're a sub-tribe. See? Let's get that right. If you're a sub-tribe, you're hardly an iwi. So let's stop calling sub-tribes out there iwi as well, when they're hapu or uretare wa hapu whanauri like Rangitane is. Because they've got one. Uretare wa ariki tahipu mā takitahi. Okay, they've got one. That's all they've got. That's hardly an iwi, ladies and gentlemen. That's hardly an iwi. So Rangitane needs to stop saying that. They haven't even got a reo yet, because the reo they've been using is kahu. We hold the reo of Rangitane, and we're not releasing it until all this rubbish is over. That's why we haven't released Rangitane's reo. We won't be until all this rubbish is over. And they've gone under, just like Kahungunu is going to have to go under. When that's officially done, we have been through all the paperwork, we have the agreements, all in legalese before our lawyers and the Crown have done the same thing, then we will release that reo. But until then, you will get nothing. Okay? And Rangitane, hard case that you're the most junior out of everybody, and actually you need to be told where your status is or your positioning is amongst all of this. It's a hard case that we have to put you in your place all the time. But you are the most junior, and therefore you need to hold your position. You are not an iwi. Okay? You are not an iwi. Rangitane uretane wa hapu whanau uri. They are sub-tribe, hapu sub-tribe of Kahu. Out of Kupe. Okay? Kupe 1 and 2 come from Kahu, who is part of us. Okay? Kahu is hapu iwi whanau uri. So they're still a sub-tribe, but they're an iwi. See? You're nothing like that. You're nothing like that. Who come from the Tahumakakanuimatua, hapu iwi whanau uri. Who are a sub-tribe too, but are still an iwi. See? Which you're nothing of the sort. Rangitane. And who come from the Māmoe, like I was discussing before, whose ariki is held now by the Te Arawa, most senior, and their top. Okay, we're very proud of that achievement. But the Rangitane will need to come to terms with their position. It is not a disposition. A tūturu position like that should be looked after. And you should be proud of that. You should not be carried away with the exaggeration that has happened with you via the Crown/Crown, who's a load of rubbish and who has no evidence of what they're saying about you. We'll tell you the truth. We'll put you in your place. We'll tell you all of that detail, because we know how vital that information is to the future of all of our people. Not just yours, all of our people. Now, when you keep getting that wrong like that, and you keep saying that you're an iwi Rangitane, you get it wrong for everybody around you as well. Stupid things like that is what can cause trouble and chaos in this space. It's a lot of the troubles that we've been dealing with in the interim. Okay? And so, yeah, e tatauma. Let's hope that everyone has learnt exactly what the iwi is. Stop calling the hapu an iwi. Especially if it's not. If it's uretare wa hapu whanau uri, then it's not an iwi. Even if it's a first stage, second stage, third stage, fourth stage, fifth stage, well, fifth stage you can, yeah, hapu iwi whanau uri we're getting into there. Hapu iwi whanau uri. That's where there's 5 uretare wa ariki tahipu mā takitahi. 5 of them. 5 of them. That's the start of your hapu iwi, or hapu of the most advanced, the most extensive that you can have. Okay? E tatauma. And we need to stay on track with all of those things. Okay? Because once you've got 7 plus, between 7 plus, 8 plus, you've got the full-grown hapu iwi, or hapu of the most extensive that you can have. Okay? If you're not hapu, if you don't have a birth line, hapu birth line, you are uri whanau uri. That's all you are. Tūhoe. Ngā puhi, that's all you are, is uri whanau uri. You don't have a hapu birth line. Not one of your uri has a hapu birth line. We've checked it all out. Stop lying about that. To have that, you need 3 in a row of the uretare wa ariki. 1, the grandfather. 2, the father and thirdly the son. Okay, 3 males in a row with their wives, with their Orere-O-Te-Wa, Orere-O-Te-Wa, the ariki wahine. Each of their ariki wahine formulates the Hapu birth line coming from the 3rd line. Okay, you don't have that anywhere in Ngā Puhi. And you can't tell us otherwise because we've studied you too well. Okay, and some of the questions out there about the whakatapu in the north, that is on. I'm going to give you that information right now because I'm not worried whether you know or not. But I need to inform you of that. That has been on for quite some time. Okay? And that wasn't going to be told you because some of our security advised me not to. They wanted to hold it there and just to see how silly you were as a people to go against that, to go against anything like that. Even the sanctity of the lands of some of the most senior in the country, that you would even defile that would be the most stupid thing you could ever do in Ngā Puhi. And I thought, well, rather than them think that I've got no guts to say that it's on up there, I'd rather tell them that it's on. And so I told them, right here now, Ngā Puhi, our whakatapu over all our lands in the north stands. Okay, and it stands now because I've chosen to inform you of that. We are not going to be taking that off. Until everything settles down up there as well, we won't be taking it off. Do you understand me? Good. Good. Now make sure that you do what is right. And don't keep trampling our lands and our people in the north like you have been. And start looking at the progress that you made over the last 30 years and not the doomsday position that you've gone and put yourself back into. That is the blow-ass mode that you were in the years before that. Okay? Now if you can't handle that, that's too bad for you. That's our ruling over our land. That's our land, and we've got every right to whakatapu our land. That's our whenua. Okay? And that's over millennia. That's over millennia. You have no right to be claiming into that land. Unless you have right into that land as well as us. That's fine by us. But you can't try and defy our claim up there. No way. No way in the world you can do that. And especially not with our whakatapu up there. Alright? That's just a little bit of kōrero there I needed to give to the Ngā Puhi up there. And that is just so to keep you aware, you know, that we're not afraid to work our law system in our land. We ain't afraid of nothing up there. There's nothing to be afraid of up there. There's nothing up there that's new to us. Do you understand me, Ngā Puhi? Okay, there's no way Ngā Puhi is ever going to defeat Tahumakakanuimatua anywhere in the Motu, let alone up there. Okay, and if you don't like it, Ngā Puhi, get the fuck out. Now, I've said that before, get the fuck out if you don't like it. Alright? And that's the way it's going to stay. Right. And those sorts of things are tantamount within a law system that, in its pragmatic way of operation, continues to keep the law continually. It doesn't let you in, like how you're acting up there in the north. It doesn't let you in to be able to break the law when you want to. Kahore. Kahore. You can't do that in our law system. Okay? That's what whakatapu are all about. To stop you from breaking the law whenever you think you've got a divine right to, which is what you're doing up there. Don't do that in our land. That's not something that you are ever going to be able to do in Tahumakakanuimatua land. You understand me, ngā puhi? Right. Right. Okay, the Kahungunu Rangitane, they're basically dealt with. They're gone. They're gone now. The Crown we still have to deal with. Tūhoe, they basically started to work with us. Though I've been mentioning Tūhoe of late, they've started to work with us, and we're quite happy with that. We've got a little bit of progress going on there, which is really excellent. Excellent progress for us. But we've got a long way to go there. So we're going to work closely with the Tūhoe people. We have contact with their leaders, among their leaders, and we understand there's a fair bit of change going on in there, which is awesome for Tūhoe. The toughest thing for them to do is just the whole position. Yeah, that's all they need to do is hold position, but that's really tough. Especially when you've come through a couple of centuries thinking that you're Hapu iwi. Well, that's not possible for Tūhoe. They don't have any Hapu birth line either. They are uri whānau uri, and they also don't have 5 to 7 or even 8 plus uretārewa ariki tahipu mā takitahi, with Orere o te meu mā married to them, kia putai, te kahakanui, Hapu. Not one in Tūhoe. So I'm happy that we're starting to get that understanding going within Tūhoe, and starting to get them soldiering the right way and holding position in there. Because they're never going to lose sight of being the great people that they are within themselves. Oh, of course not. Of course not. We understand. Those of us who are very tuturu in the land, we understand that. We understand that Tūhoe would never lose that. And in fact, they're probably going to be a lot better in future if they learn to hold that position. Okay, and that's the direction they've started to go in. And I'm quite proud of them. So far. Okay, and yeah, ngā puhi, sorry, but you're in such a state. Don't bother even asking for us to lift anything, because we don't have to. That's the law. That's the law. Yeah. Yeah. How silly of ngā puhi people to think we might be scared to mention. That's not true. We're not scared of anything in ngā puhi. They're nothing new. And they're all teina, some of the most teina in the mutu. Who cares what ngā puhi says? Who cares? Why would we fear ngā puhi? What, are they trying to say their numbers, we should be fearful of numbers? Get stuff, ngā puhi. You're full of shit. Your numbers are crap. Most of those numbers are māmoe, tahu, and moriori. Moriori whātua, to be precise. Ana? Get that right, ngā puhi. Get that right. Don't let us have to drum that into you, ngā puhi, until you get it right. Because we'll do it if we have to. Alright? Understand that. Same for you, Tahumakakanuimatua. We're sick and tired of the uri whānau uri in the country like you, teina as, and you're among one of the most teina in the country. In fact, the South Island are amongst our teina groups, among the most teina groups of the country. And they need to understand their positioning. E tatama, you need to understand your positioning and understand, you know, so far, the major group we are understanding really are, and they've been amazing anyway, among the Taina groups in the country that have been holding their position really well, is the Toa Rangatira. Take from their example, please. Tahu Pōtiki, stop rebelling against the tūturu that we bring, being among the most customary in the motu. That includes te awa, and that includes moai hapu. Okay, try and take from those examples, and of course, one of the groups that you've always been influenced by and that you've got a line into, and that is the awa tūhoi. They're starting to backtrack on a lot of the ways that they've been operating and changing their ways, because they're well aware of all the chaos and havoc they've been causing amongst tribes in the motu, including ours. They've done so very much trampling of our people, especially our top lines. Okay, over the last 35 years especially. Okay, and that sort of thing needs to stop. Tahu Pōtiki, take from that example. The tūhoi are moving in that direction, so why can't you? Okay, and so we have very little option. Aroha mai ngā puhi, we have very little option. Okay? Apologies to you, but we have very little option but to move forward in this fashion. And keep our tūturu law system intact within that. Our securities intact. Our 5 lines of security, including military, intact as we move forward. We've got no other option. Okay? It doesn't take a scientist to work out all this stuff. Hey, especially when you've got the cold, hard evidence that we've got. And we know the tūturutanga of the area in the north that we do. And the way that we do as well. There's no way in the world that your crown /crown fed idea of moving forward, along with the stupidity of the Māori Affairs Minister of today. What an idiot. What an idiot to suggest that we all move in that way. Fucking shove it up his ass. Fucking dickhead. What a dick. The Crown's full of shit. The Crown's got no fucking proof of all that shit. And look at the fucking garbage that they're causing down here. Look at the shit they're causing here. What, they want to cause it up there next? What's this minister going to do now that all this shit's gone down? Where's he? He's probably run off home and hiding in his fucking little fucking hole. Fucking idiot. Probably scared he might be the next to get shot. What a fucking idiot. Because we're going to have the same arguments in the north if it comes to that. And we aren't going to be shy to stand up. We ain't going to be scared to do shit in the fucking north. You understand me? Tell Ngā Puhi to stop fucking dreaming in the north. They're as fucking staunch as they think, Ngā Puhi. In fact, they're looking all fucking shit right now. Okay? That's the news I've got for Ngā Puhi. That's the news I've got for them. They'll be all fucking shit right now. Alright? The law is what it is. And customary law remains in this country. There's something that I listened to Busby deny. Right in front of the public eye, he denied that we had any such law system or any such way of rule or regulation. Or that's a whole lot of fucking bullshit. What a whole lot of fucking shit. Customary law has been here for millennia, and we uphold all of that through Moai, through Te Awa, and through Tahu. We will continue to uphold that to the hills. You want to test us on that? Try it. Try testing us on that. I don't want to hear any more talks from Busby with his shit motherfucking letter trying to say to the public that there was no such thing. What a crock of shit. And that's an example of some of the crap that they're posting around the place. This is probably Hobson's Pledge doing all that shit, or Seymour in his fucking rat bags. Seymour in his rat bags. These clowns that devise all these fucking unjust ways of moving forward and dictatorship ways of fucking devising laws. What a crock of shit. What an idiot. Suggest he's a fucking dickhead, this Seymour. He needs to pull his fucking head out of his ass. Fucking dick. Okay, because this regulatory standards bill stands for a whole lot more crap than the fucking treaty principles bill does. Okay? And we need e Tutuma to get there in our droves. If we got there in only 300,000 with our 400,000 that I represent, look, we can do better than that. I think there's only another 300,000 or 400,000 in the Muti that need to come forward. And then we've got the whole of our super tribal indigenous native people in there. Showing this idiot where the fuck it's at for our people. Okay, what a fucking idiot. Nothing worse than an idiot who doesn't want the truth to come out and wants the power all for himself, so he can be a fucking idiot in amongst our people and fuck up things for everybody, even more than it's already been fucked up. What an idiot. I can't wait till this clown's out of that parliament. I can't wait till this what do they call it? They call it an alliance or something like that. These three parties in the lead at the moment are fucking out of there. I can't wait for that shit. Because all the bullshit that they're causing in the Muti is fucking atrocious. Now, they don't even know these clowns, but fucking they're going to get a mess like what we got to deal with here if they don't fucking watch out. And would you blame those people? Nah. Fuck, I wouldn't. I wouldn't blame those people for kicking up like that. Or looking to protect their whānau and their well-being like that. Okay, so we need to understand a regulatory standards bill of this kind. Part 2 of the Treaty Principles Bill is just not on. It's not happening. It's even, I got real hōhā when we got into this bill. In fact, it's taken me ages to get onto it because I just really dislike this sort of politics that's going on in this country at the moment. It wants to take the power from the indigenous native and the Pākehā voter and destroy their ability to be able to formulate standards through standards and law legislation. I can't think of a worse fucking bill. You know, I thought the Treaty Principles Bill was bad. This is fucking even worse. You know what? And those ministers that got punished for doing the haka against that bill, that's not even fucking happening. They shouldn't have even been punished, those people. They rightfully, according to our custom and our knowledge of the law, customary law, that should be allowed for. There should be place for that in the Westminster system. If it really caters to our people, then it allows for that. Because it doesn't, that makes it institutionally racist for them to call it, for them to be called it out, to call it out, for them to call it out that is racist, and for them to even judge these people on their actions is racist. What a disgusting system. Just the fact that we have to put up with that crap is fucking absolutely out of here. What a ridiculous political system. They're always preaching, oh, they're there for everybody. What a load of fucking shit. When it comes to the native indigenous of this country, the super tribal of this country, they ain't there for us at all. They're only there for them fucking selves. And they always have been. That's why they ripped us off in this country, and they wanted the original intentions forgotten about in Te Tiriti. But they're back. And they're back big time. And there's no way we're letting no RSP fucking take the place of that. Go get fucked. Okay, the Regulatory Standards Bill is a lot worse. And you know, that haka spoke volumes, and the volumes that it spoke is exactly the outcome you got for the Treaty Principles Bill. I mean, it shouldn't even have been in at all. It shouldn't have even been allowed through. And those people were just echoing those sentiments. Those were the sentiments of our people right behind that haka. They were the sentiments. They were showing that Parliament, hey, this bill should not be allowed through. But what did that alliance, what did that tri-government say? They said, oh, no, we'll take it through the process, we'll take it to the committee. What a crock of fucking shit. That bill didn't stand a chance, and they knew it. And they know this one won't stand a chance either. But why should we have to put up with a crock of shit like this? Only one way of not having to put up with a crock of shit like this: get this fucking crock of shit alliance out of there. And then we'll all be fucking happy. And stop their shit stirring of everybody in the mutu to get the Pākehā voter who gets sucked into the racial discrimination that they start to kick up in the country, and people working against our native indigenous super tribal in the country in the way that they do. Which is the same way in which these bills are being put together. Divisive, discriminatory, all that sort of shit that goes on with bills like this. And this is from an idiot that calls himself Māori. He probably fucking is. He probably fucking is, because he can't be a Tuturu, man, that's for sure. You have to be a Māori. And that's what the Crown wants us to be. That's how they want us to act, like we're Māori, this term that they wanted to call us. Okay? The only people we know about that ever called themselves Māori is Rarotonga and Cook Islanders. Yeah, we're the first people of the land. We're Raiatea Tahiti. We've never been Māori. Never, ever, ever in our heritage have we ever been Māori. Okay, we hold onto our tūturutanga right through, and we've done so right through. Even since coming through Asia, Savai, into Raiatea Tahiti, and eventually te tiri o te moana Hawaii ki tau, te tiri o te moana o te aro. Okay? And I'm just, I've had enough, you know, after all that positive kōrero, I've just had enough of having to put up with garbage like this. Now, why do we have to put up with this sort of crap all the time? People with not a care in the world about what they do and say, yeah, obviously, I should, you know, I shouldn't be coming out so angry and blatantly, you know, swearing and all that sort of stuff, and that rightfully so. But we shouldn't have to put up with that same sort of, you know, it's comparatively the same. Well, we're having to put up to the same slanderous shit. Okay, and we shouldn't have to put up with any of that. The Seymour should know better than that. I call him a marshmallow boy. White on the inside. He looks actually quite fair looking on the outside of it. Oh, well, maybe he's a Snow White marshmallow boy. A snowy snowman marshmallow boy. Yeah. I saw a post the other day. They were swearing him in. I said, oh, fuck, man. We've been swearing at this cunt all the fucking, you know, for years now. And I said, we'll probably fucking swear at him right through to the end of his fucking reign here. Fucking dickhead. Yeah, we'll probably swear at him some more. Now, bills like this, oh, I'm afraid to say there's just no place for this sort of shit in our society. And we shouldn't have to, you know, the normal Joe Blogs on the street shouldn't have to put up with this shit. I mean, they go on about the law, making legislation in that parliament, in the Westminster style parliament in there. They go on about the law. Well, you know, keeping the law properly in this country would be to devise a way of working with the original intentions of the tiriti first. That's what would keep the law in this country. Not devising rubbish like the regulatory standards, but what a load of rubbish. It gets a little bit complex in there, and contextually, you know, it's a little bit it's got a fair bit of consistency in there, but it's not hard to understand, really, the regulatory standards bill. And it's really a part two of the principles. They're right about that. The lawyers that spoke out and said that are right about that. And I think the tribunal said that as well. The tribunal said that as well, the Waitangi Tribunal. And that's what awful crap we're having to put up with from this government. What a disgusting government. You know, they're led by a party who's led by someone who doesn't even know how to... He's not even a politician. You know, he's still a businessman as far as we're concerned. He's here to do some business, but something else. You know, selling and you know, product delivery on shit like that. You know, we shouldn't have to put up with this sort of thing. So once we oppose this bill, we're hoping that there's no more bills like this. Or, you know, people like Seymour are not going to be happy with the rebellion they're going to have to face later on. Because I quite believe a lot of the stories that people are devising out there, and a lot of their commentaries out there against Mr. Seymour, is that all he wants to do is cause a civil war. And I think to go as far as to say that, that would be correct. That would be correct. That is the nature of the stuff that he is doing out there. And that's why I'm so angry. Yeah. That's why I'm swearing a lot. Because this fella is the height of stirrers in the country. That's why I mentioned that earlier in my kōrero. Te kōrero kōrero. Te kōrero take. Te kōrero kaupapa. This man is the biggest stirrer we have ever seen in politics to date. And yeah, he needs to be shut down. He needs to be shut down, that man, because he's just absolutely ridiculous. He's absolutely ridiculous. So, yeah. Once that happens, once this regulatory standards bill, I have no doubt that this bill will get thrown out as well. But it shouldn't even make it through either. We should be allowed to haka this bill. Because it's a bill that should have never got started either. It was out before it got started. Same with the Principles Bill, out before it got started. Now, the Māori Party did that haka to show the world that this bill was out before it got started, and that's exactly what happened. Same thing's going to happen to this one. Those people should not have been punished, but that's typical of the Westminster system. They're showing their racial, their institutional racist ways. Institutionally racist ways. And that sort of politics that I'm talking about is exactly that. I was listening to a woman the other day explaining their style of politics that they're conducting through the parliament today, that particular alliance within the government, and their politics is race-based politics. The exact thing that Mr. Peters preaches that he never gets into. What a crock of shit. Fuck, he's a crock of shit. That's exactly what they're employing to get their vote. That's exactly what they're employing to cause havoc in the country. And that's exactly what the Seymour is up to. He wants a civil war in this country. What a fucking idiot. Because he's going down the right path to that. That's why I say that. And yeah, that's all for now. I've got to say on the RSB. I was disgusted in the treaty principles. I'm a lot worse on this bill. They should be doing haka all the time. Every time this bill comes up in the Parliament, in the Westminster system, they should be doing haka all the time. They should be allowed to. There should be a place for that. But of course they don't have that in their little rules and regulations to suit just them. See how racist that is? Institutionally racist ways only suit one side. They don't suit the other side of the tangata whenua side. They only suit one side. That is the fraudulent side. The fraudulent side. Aroha mai, e tatai mai. But there's not a problem, I guess, with a little bit of negativity creeping in there today, because most of our kōrero's been pretty positive, eh? But yeah, just so long as people understand where we're at with having to deal with people like this, it's just ridiculous. Just ridiculous to have to deal with people like this. The Seymour, what an idiot! I can't put it in any other way. And their government is just, they were out of here before they got in, I think. And Mr. Peters should know better. They call him a veteran and they're, oh, fuck me days. He's got another thing coming if he thinks he's a veteran himself. He's no veteran. He's no veteran. Not if he's been as hypocritical and contradictory in his government as he's been. Okay? He's supporting race-based politics and he is participating in that. And that's how contradictory and blow-ass, therefore, that he is. And that's our kōrero for today. E tātou mā. The RSB is out of here. That's the first thing they're going to get from us. And we'll explain why. And we'll back all that up with evidence. And yeah, that's to come. But e tātou mā. Until next time, tō mātai atua matua I te matapuo. Taputia tonuhia o tō unga. Tō hoi ano kia tai ake. Ia ko tā anu kia mea atuai. Ia te whenua tau. Ia tō te matapuo. Mea ia mātai ki te ao nei, ai o a te iao, hareia. A ko murua ke ia mātai, o mātai I oa. A me mātai hoki ia mātai, mātai e I o ahia. A ka hure hoki mātai kia kau o, kia whakawaia. E rangi whakaura ia mātai, ia te kino mea. Anu hoi nā ia hoki te ho anu. Me te mana tapu. Me ko te taia. Ke tonu atu. Mene. Ka piti hono ka tātai hono ko rātau rā tērā te mate ki a rātau. Ka piti hono ka tātai hono. Ko tātai mātau tonu anu tīni tātai mātau ko te kānuhi ora ki a tātai mātau koai. Ko te mihi atu te nara tātau. Te nara tātai mauri ora. Kahuri.